Peace, love, knowledge, and freedom, and welcome to another episode of So Frail Conversations. Today we're going to talk about discipline, strictly discipline. Um, Regarding my brothers and everything, this is a topic I feel that we need to touch upon. I feel that we need to really discuss uh, in the full spectrum of it, because it's one of those things where we 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 understand that discipline is a mark of being masculine, but why is it a mark of being masculine? What is it that makes discipline what it is, and what makes it connect to masculinity so well? And of course, these are so frail conversations. So it's about the different things that tie into the masculine essence that we have. So discipline is like kind of I say like, I say discipline has to be like the gas to the vehicle. From discipline kind of segues everything else, because there's so much tied to being disciplined. There's so much time to having a focus mind. But we need to understand what discipline is for the most part as a whole, because a lot of times it's easy to become lazy. It's easy to not be disciplined. It's easy to fall short of reality. But the truth is, discipline is at play as a principle in our lives at all times. We need to understand which polarity of discipline that we need to tap into, because, like, for example, one thing that I always hear women say is, I need a man who's consistent. Like, okay, cool. How consistent are you referring to, and what type of consistency do you need? Because not any funny shit. If he's consistent at being inconsistent, you're still getting inconsistency. You feel what I'm saying? And that's what I mean by that. So the consistency is still at play, but his consistency is what he's consistent with is inconsistent. It's inconsistency. Same situation with discipline. A lot of times we think we're being lazy. No, we're disciplined to nothingness. You feel what I'm saying? And that comes into a different dynamic of it. So if we understand that discipline is not a one-sided thing, it becomes easier to say, okay, I understand that I'm naturally, or right now, I'm moving from this polarity of discipline, and I need to be moving to the right polarity of discipline, as opposed to understanding or seeing discipline as a polarity itself. You feel what I'm saying? Like, if we see discipline as something that is polarized, rather than a polarizing factor, it's easier to adjust when it's time to, because you will realize that, you become more intentional when you realize, oh, there's always discipline at play, but the outcomes of discipline, what I mean? The different polarities, lack of discipline is what we look at it as, but no, discipline is at play too. It's just the opposite polarity. You're disciplined for doing nothing, which creates laziness. You feel what I'm saying? Or if you're disciplined towards something, then it creates action. You become action oriented as opposed to lazy. You feel what I'm saying? But I'm not going to get too heavy into that right now, because this is just the intro. So before we dive into it, be sure to follow me on Instagram at _scene_. Also be sure to check out my website, iamjustseen.com, to get all things that are just seen. So Frail books, Hitting It Raw book, the Mastering the Market course, the Hitting It Raw program, the merch, of course, the podcast, and you can follow all of the different social media outlets connected to those. You can also book a session with Scene, chatting with Scene, where nothing's off limits for me to talk about or, go into. So if you would like to check that out too, it's on the website. And that's it as far as the website and different connections with that. Be sure, oh no, I just said that. Much appreciation, love, and gratitude to all who sponsor, tip, and donate to the podcast. You are greatly appreciated. If you would like to donate, tip, or sponsor to the podcast, you can do so by clicking the description of your podcast. Cash App or PayPal is fine, but remember, it is a description of your podcast and not just the individual episode you are listening to. And also, if you enjoy this episode, be sure to share it with your friends, family, and all your different social media connections. It would be greatly appreciated. You the best. And with that being said, we're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to hop into So Frail Conversations, Discipline. Oh yeah, and don't forget to visit IamJustSeen.com. There, you can get all things Just Seen. You want to add the So Frail series to your library? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to learn how to master the market for serious trading and investing? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to get your hands on some exclusive merch like tees, hoodies, coffee mugs, hats, bags? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Are you thinking about transitioning into the plant-based lifestyle? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You ever want to just chat with Seen about anything from simple advice to mentorship? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Anything and everything that is me, you can find at IamJustSeen.com. So just take a quick peek into my world and see why being just seen is nothing less but always more. Because you never really know what you need until you see it. You will never see it unless you visit IamJustSeen.com. All right, welcome back. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive straight into it. So, as I was, beginning about consistency, and that those two things go hand in hand, consistency and discipline. But discipline is the focal point. One quote that I live by, I've been living by this since I was an undergrad, is it creates a synergy for myself. It's kind of an affirmation, a mantra, something that I utter frequently, actually, and it's you have to be consistent with your discipline while disciplining your consistency. You have to continually put those two things together. But the centerpiece for that to me is discipline, and that is something that really sets the tone. Because, like I said, you can be consistent at being inconsistent. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not really that far-fetched of a quandary, And I was discussing with one of my friends a long time ago, and it was on Facebook. We was going back and forth and shit, and she was like, "I just want a man that's going to be consistent." I said, "Consistent with what?" Because technically, if he can still be consistently inconsistent, and you're getting consistency. So that was like, what is the defining point that separates the consistencies? You know what I'm saying? What is the defining moment that separates the consistencies? And it's like, what makes us consistent as a man? You know what I mean? And sometimes we have to, take a step back, because there's things that we could be doing on a consistent basis that may not be catered to what the societal world wants us to be consistent with. But the focal point of that is discipline. It's discipline, and we gotta really take a second to ask ourselves what discipline is. What we define discipline is. Discipline is what we define discipline as. You feel what I'm saying? And I'm not going to define it here. I'm not going to define it here because I don't want it to be structured into, okay, this is how it has to be. Nah, because discipline varies from person to person, and it's how you develop that discipline. One of the quintessential pieces that kind of really fucks us up in regards to discipline is how we were disciplined in life. You feel what I'm saying? The way in which we were exposed to discipline will really dictate how disciplined we can be as adults, or how disciplined we will be as men. Our discipline typically, more whether it's societal, whether it's cultural, discipline is tied to punishment. You feel what I'm saying? Like nobody really teaches us discipline as a form of something fun to do, or as a means to progress or to do something greater within ourselves. And I'll discuss a little bit of that a little later, but I want to talk about this particular point first, because discipline is almost directly correlated to punishment. Every time we, and it makes sense, like you growing up, like, if I ain't gonna hold you, bro, I was bad as hell in school. Like up until 7th grade, somehow I just stopped being bad. I'm promise you, I really just stopped being bad. I took school seriously. I was always like naturally good at school anyway, but behavior wise, I started to take it seriously. But I would notice that every time I got in trouble, I had disciplinary actions. Like my punishment was disciplinary actions. And for many of us, we equate punishment to discipline. And subconsciously and even unconsciously, that's why it's so hard to be disciplined in this world, because we equate it to punishment. We don't equate it to a good time. We don't equate it to anything good. It's punishment, and punishment typically denotes pain, and the very thing that we're getting punished for, we're receiving the disciplinary actions for, are things that we wanted to do. You feel what I'm saying? So now we're being disciplined with things we don't want to do. You feel what I'm saying? So it creates the stigma that makes it, as subtle as it is, it makes it difficult to be disciplined, because you don't see discipline as a good thing. You don't see having discipline as a good quality. You see discipline as punishing yourself. You feel what I'm saying? You see discipline as punishing yourself. Now, I'm not just basing this on the fact that because I got in trouble a lot and I had disciplinary actions, but it's a common theme that I see between men. Like the men that I know that are the wildest, that were the wildest in the streets, they kind of stay with disciplinary actions. Is it a coincidence? I don't believe so, because I don't believe in those. But it's a direct correlation. You feel me? A lot of the people who never really got in trouble in school, they have a stronger foundation with discipline. And just when I just look at it in life, the people who have a healthy relationship and a healthy connection with discipline aren't wilding out, or don't have a past of wilding out and doing wild shit. You feel what I'm saying? Typically, the ones who do have an issue with disciplinary actions do, right? Because discipline has been directly connected to punishment or consequence, and negative consequence at that. You feel what I'm saying? Negative consequence of that. So it gets to why I discipline myself, because I have already internalized that because like I always tell people, you got to go back to how a child works. To understand the world for real, you got to understand how a child thinks and how you thought as a child. Some of us, we get so hard on ourselves trying to create this reality. Oh, I'm an adult now, that we forget our inner child is still alive and well. And we got to tap into that. Our inner child had a wild imagination for a reason. It was creative. It was fearless. But our inner child makes associations with reality. And if we don't have the ability, or we're not given the ability to fully understand these realities without all of the mysticism and without all the fanaticism, it holds into our subconscious mind, and we dwell on it. You feel me? We dwell on it forever, and it never changes, because it was given to us as a child. So if as a kid, I'm hearing, like, let's say I'm 3, 4, 5 years old, and I'm constantly hearing that discipline, or I'm seeing that discipline, that word itself is associated with punishment. That's what I'm gonna tie into reality. So when people say, yo, you need to discipline yourself. No, I'm not punishing myself for nothing. I'm not doing that shit. It's already ingrained within our realities. So because we have that connection to discipline that way negatively, it's like we only discipline ourselves for some kind of consequence, some kind of consequence. Now, you have the other side of that, where discipline is, okay, people, discipline is waking up 5 o'clock in the morning. No, that's not discipline. That's structure. That's structure. It's not discipline to wake up 5 o'clock in the morning. Discipline is the correction in self to be able to fuel the capacity for you to get up at 5 in the morning. The 5 in the morning thing is a byproduct. Because there's things before that make it, okay, if I'm going to be disciplined enough to get up at 5, then this discipline is going to create the structure that makes me get up at 5, but I also got to be in bed by 10. You feel me? To be the work at time, I got to leave at this particular, there's things that have to go into discipline. So discipline is not necessarily the structure itself. Discipline is the energy that creates the structure. You feel what I'm saying? Discipline is going to be the energy that creates the structure for you. And this is why I mentioned the part about, school, disciplinary actions, like, homework, studying. I didn't do none of that shit, and that was one of the vices, like, because of my natural understanding and ability to do well in school. I never studied. I'm gonna be transparent with y'all, because that shit busted my ass in undergrad. I still graduated with honors. But when it was like, when I needed to study, that shit was so fucking hard, because I had never done it before. I had never done it before. See, with discipline, it's an energy that's whether you need it or not, you still do it. You feel what I'm saying? That's why I said that's why I said discipline can have both polarities, because you can have discipline that can lead you to laziness. You feel me? It was still an energy that led me to a structure of nothingness. I don't study. The fuck, I'm not gonna study, bro. I don't need to. I can literally just look over the material just before, refresh myself, go in and I think one of the biggest things, because it was a gift and a curse with it, was that like when I was in school, I paid attention to class. Like I paid attention to class and absorbed the information there. So, and I fully understood it when it was given the first time, and I was able to internalize it right then. So when the test came, it's like I knew the material. I didn't need to learn what I had to study for. I just knew the material for this segment, then I would compound it with the previous material. But because of that, it allowed me, I never had to discipline myself to actually study and pay attention heavy. You feel what I'm saying? And it fucked me up. Almost fucked me up in undergrad, because when it started getting heavy, I was taking biochemistries and all of this shit. Like, you can't just walk into class and wing that shit. Hell no. Like, you feel me? That shit was different. I had to study for biochemistry. I'm like, nigga, like, I don't get this shit the first go round. You feel what I'm saying? But that creates that shows how easy discipline is overlooked, because discipline is not the structure. You feel me? Because I still set schedules. I still had a whole time block. I still had a structure, but I didn't have the discipline to really study and get the shit done as I was supposed to, because discipline was a polarity, and the discipline, it swayed either way. It was a principle acting at play, and it swayed either way. And I happened to let it sway sometimes for the lazy side. You feel what I'm saying? And I was still disciplined at that. You feel me? You could be disciplined, like I said, you could be disciplined at doing nothing. And you could be disciplined at doing something. You feel me? And then from the discipline, you create the structure of your life. You feel what I'm saying? So it's like, so now we're looking at it like, what is discipline actually? What is it? You feel me? Is it just, okay, let me set this schedule, let me set this routine, let me do this, that, and the third. And, no, those are byproducts of it, as I said. But one thing we have to realize is that this is something that I've learned. Discipline is a direct function of self-love and self-care. And because we have been conditioned to misinterpret the definition of love, like I said, we look at love from two different polarities. Well, love has two different polarities in this world, but it's really only one, but it has a viewpoint. You know what I'm saying? And the viewpoint that we typically view love from is the amalgamation of admiration, desire, infatuation, and lust. And yes, we can admire, desire, be infatuated with, and lust of ourselves. I'm not talking about, like, lust is not just a sexual thing, but those four things are what we feel is love. So when we say, okay, love yourself, that's the way in which we feel we should love ourselves, right? But love, if you've heard the podcast episode on peace, love, knowledge, and freedom, love is, the betterment. It's the betterment through creation. I mean, not through creation, through correction. When you really love something, you are poised to make it better through correction. That's when you truly love it. You feel what I'm saying? That's when you truly love it. And discipline is a function of that. Discipline is what propels you into doing that. You feel what I'm saying? But the issue is when we're disciplined, because we put discipline in the bracket of punishment and in the bracket of something negative, a negative consequence to certain things. If we're looking at love through the amalgamation of infatuation, admiration, desire, and lust, it doesn't work. We can't be disciplined in that regard, because we're not going to bring pain to ourselves logically. You feel what I'm saying? But that's what we have internalized that discipline really is. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I've seen homies, or not necessarily homies, just kids in general, like, kid talk when we at school and shit. I hear people talk about, how they got disciplined, and, well, my discipline was I was bad, so my discipline was for me to not watch TV, or for me to be deprived of something, or sometimes a whooping. You feel what I'm saying? Those energies connect with that. It connects with that reality, that simple word, discipline. This is what it connects with, punishment. So why discipline myself? Fuck that. I'm an adult, bro. I'm not about to discipline myself. I am not about to punish myself, because we don't internalize that discipline is the highest form of self-love. Because with love comes correction. When you're disciplined, you're able to correct yourself. You feel what I'm saying? You're able to put the energy into the structure that will lead to your own correction when you're in your wrong space. That's discipline at a whole. You feel me? Discipline isn't necessarily, okay, I set this workout routine, now I got to stick to it. No, that's not what makes it discipline. That's what makes it structured. Discipline is understanding, okay, my body is going through this right now and I need to make this correction. So here's the energy that I have to put into consistently and actively doing this and getting this done for the betterment of myself. And I'm going to hold myself to that standard and be accountable for that shit. Because now with discipline comes the two. Right under discipline, you have accountability and responsibility. You feel what I'm saying? A disciplined motherfucker is always going to be accountable and responsible for their actions. You dig what I'm saying? Disciplined motherfucker is always going to be accountable and responsible for their actions. But when you truly understand that discipline is not consequence, discipline is not punishment, then it makes sense why when somebody is accountable for themselves, accountable for the shit that they do, it can come sometime. Case in point, I was just recently discussing with one of my friends. They were like, yo, you're hard on yourself. And I mentioned, I'm not hard on myself. I'm accountable because I'm a disciplined person. You feel what I'm saying? Discipline isn't me waking, the ability to wake up 5 o'clock in the morning to go, study analytics. That's not discipline. That's structure. The discipline is the reason why I need to do that. The discipline is the energy that makes me correct myself and constantly stay on point to give myself the self-love that I need. So I need to be accountable and responsible for that. So the umbrellas under the discipline is accountability and responsibility. You feel what I'm saying? Just because you're structured, just because you can do something consistently every single day because it has developed into a habit for you, doesn't mean you're disciplined. It means you're habitual. You feel me? Discipline is something different because can you still maintain that when your rhythm is broken? You feel what I'm saying? For example, when I was in undergrad, and I'm just using myself for these quote unquote the negative polarity ones. You feel me? When I was in undergrad, I would be like, if one thing was off in the schedule, my whole day was fucked up. That wasn't discipline. If my alarm didn't go off because I said, okay, at 9 o'clock I got to be here. 10 o'clock I got a class here and I got to do that. If like one thing went off, it fucked me up. Discipline is not necessarily, discipline is the ability to still maintain the course regardless of what just happened. What small wrench can be thrown into your reality? You feel what I'm saying? How many of us we fall into that? When one small thing goes wrong, when something goes wrong, everything else collapses. That's not a discipline issue. That's a structural issue. You feel me? Discipline is going to say, shit, okay, fuck it. Let's keep it going. I missed this and you know what I mean? Let's keep it going. For example, and I'm going to share this right now because I'm being transparent with y'all as I always am. The irony of this very episode is that, well, it's not necessarily the irony, but this one kind of actually fits into it. So this episode is about discipline, right? I typically record these episodes the day before. So I will record it on, what's this one? Today's release is on Saturday. So I will record it on Friday and get it done and then set it. So now this is talking about the structure shit. I wake up and I'm up probably like 6 o'clock. After 6 o'clock, I meditate. 7, I record the episode. 7 in the morning, bam, go ahead and knock it out. Beginning of the day, right? Thursday night, I ain't go to bed till like 1 or 2. Ain't no way in hell I'm waking up at 6. I don't give a fuck. You feel me? And so because of that, by the time I did wake up, it was already 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock, right? Discipline would have said, fuck it. Go ahead and record this episode still. Like, just do what you were going to do at 8 or 9 and then come back to it. I said, nope, if I didn't do it at 7, I'm not doing it. That wasn't discipline. That was structure. I broke the structure. So therefore, I removed the discipline from it. The discipline would have been, yo, I'm still getting it done today because I do it on Friday. You feel me? So the reason why I'm saying that because it's Saturday and I'm doing it now. You feel me? This is a funny one because I'm actively recording it while it should already be out. But I'm giving y'all the transparency of it all because discipline is not a structure. You feel me? But it's the ability to still get the shit done because why? The episode's supposed to be released today. The episode releases on Saturdays. Today is still Saturday, so I'm still getting it done. So showing y'all the balance, like, you feel me? That's what the disciplinary structure is. It's still going through to get it done despite what things can hinder you. You feel what I'm saying? So that's one of the first things we got. Well, it's the second thing we got to break. Because like I said, the first thing we got to break is the fact that we have the tie and the connection that discipline is punishment. You feel me? We have the mentality that discipline is punishment. The second thing we have is that discipline is structure, and it's not. Discipline is discipline, structure is structure. This is why if our structure breaks, we feel we can't be disciplined because we have linked the two and made them synonymous. Okay, so let's sit with that for a second. We already equate discipline to being punishment. Therefore, that makes it hard to do. You feel me? Show me a connection where you have discipline being fun. So much so that even if you try to make working out fun, you can't because you're like, I gotta work. Like you automatically see the word work in there and then it's like, oh, it's a task to do. It's nothing fun. Remember when you was a kid, you had discipline to energize yourself. You had discipline to expend your energy and didn't even know it. You feel me? I remember being as a kid, we would go outside at 10 o'clock. My mama never let us go outside earlier than 9 because she said you got to give people time to wake up. So she said 10 o'clock, you can go outside. From 10 o'clock, my guy, from 10 o'clock up until it got dark, we was outside. Never got tired. Never fucking got tired, bro. Like we would walk the trails to the parks. We would fucking play baseball, climb trees, whatever, freeze tag, tunnel tag. We played so much in a fucking day and we never got tired. You feel me? Something never stopped us, but it's like we were always active. But yet, when things change, it's like, why is it different? I remember being in middle school, PE. I hated PE class, but after PE, like, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, you're telling me to have fun. No, there's no fun in that, But I would have we had like an hour and a half PE class. Then I would like just not be engaged in the shit. But then right after the school, I go to the crib and we just played for the rest. I'm like, yo, how the fuck did I just do that? You feel me? But the discipline is showing that true discipline as the power that it is, it fuels us regardless to get the task done. You feel what I'm saying? The other things that we look at, structure, the connection to punishment, it's hard to overcome that hurdle to be disciplined within ourselves because we see it as a bad thing. We see discipline as a punishment. We see discipline as work, as a task. You feel me? I know I've had conversations with women who will call me a robot. They'd be like, no, it's not that. Like, you can call me a robot from my structure, but my discipline fuels that. I'm going to get the shit done. I say I'm going to get done when I'm going to get it done, mostly. Or by the time I'm going to get it done, mostly. I just snitched on myself, I know. But damn it, technically it's still out. It's not like I'm missing the episode. So, and then it's out before the post even releases. So we're good. But more or less, discipline is also about accepting the human aspect to yourself too. You feel what I'm saying? So when we're considering that, what is it? Why is discipline so hard for us? Why is discipline so hard for us? And women, when they say they want a disciplined man, when they want that discipline out of us, what do they really want? You feel me? I need consistency. I need this. Like, you still need that fuel to energy to make these things a reality. Discipline is, in layman's terms, in a basic, simple expression, discipline is do or don't. Will or won't. That's what it means to be disciplined. Either you're doing it or you're not, or you do it or don't, or you will or you won't. Like, there's no gray area with that. You feel what I'm saying? So, like I said, recapping real quick before I go on to this next part, because we have to break the stigma that discipline is bad. It's not a punishment. Being disciplined is not a punishment. You feel me? Like break that, That was one of the things I had to get over first because I'm like, damn. Because like I said, whenever I would go to the office, on the front of the paper, disciplinary actions. Anytime I was written up, disciplinary actions. When I got discipline assignments, like these things were things I didn't want to do. That's not discipline. You feel what I'm saying? That's punishment. You're giving me a consequence for an action, but you're calling it discipline. So now what do I internalize it as? I have to internalize it as discipline. So when it's time for me to be disciplined, it's hard because I'm not punishing myself. I would never punish myself for anything. So if I'm trying to be disciplined, I'm not going to punish myself for it. You feel me? This is why I said it's so easy to fall into the loops of laziness, because you fall into the polarity of the negative polarity of discipline, because it's still going to happen. You feel me? It's still going to happen, you know? So we have to break the connection that we have with it being punishment. You feel what I'm saying? What we also have to break is the connection that we have with it being structure. It's not structure. Structure is structure. Discipline is discipline. Discipline fuels structure. You feel me? Discipline fuels structure. So don't look at, oh, you're so, you can consistently wake up at this particular time. And then I'm like, no. And then don't beat yourself up if your structure is gone, because that affects how you view your discipline. Oh, you're such a very disciplined person. No, I'm not disciplined. I'm structured. Just because I can wake up 5 and do all of these other, like, I know people that can still get up at 5 and still have very unproductive days. I know people that can still follow a structure and be unproductive as a motherfucker. You feel me? Because structure doesn't have anything to do with discipline. It doesn't. You feel what I'm saying? Like the easiest example to understand that is how the school system is designed to make everybody think the same. I don't give a fuck what nobody says. You're designed to be educated the same way. That's why it's education. It's a training system. It's a module. You feel me? It's institutionalization. We look at inmates and we laugh at inmates, but he's been institutionalized. He was in there for so long. Everybody's institutionalized. It's just in a different way. When you spend the same amount of time consistently doing the same thing, the same structure, you become institutionalized. But anywho, when we look at people who the structure is the structure is, okay, you go to class, you go to this, like, the structure is designed for you to just become simply set in motion to do the same things. The discipline is the determining factor of what you're gonna do. You feel me? Like, as students, like, we're all in the same class. We're all learning the same material at the same time. We're all learning it from the same teacher. Of course, we all learn differently in different ways, but I'm saying if they make it the cookie cutter reality, because we have different planes of intelligences, but they teach according to basically logistics and language. Those are the only 2 intelligences that they really teach. The other 5 intelligences that they give you are considered electives. Those are things that, okay, just have fun. They're not even real things that you take seriously. So the 7 are spatial intelligence, kinesthetic, interpersonal, interpersonal, language, and logistics. Wait, it should be 7. Spatial. Oh, and music. And music too. So if you think about the other 5, those things are quote unquote electives, and the just, you do those because just waste your time with them. But we're structured to learn from logistics and language from the core curriculums and shit, right? So when we look at the language and logistics part, we all learn it the same way. We're structured to be the same thing. What's the determining factor into who's going to be successful with it and who's not? The discipline. The structure is there. The structure is there. You go to class every day. You wake up. You got to be to school on time. You go into the class. You do these things. The discipline is how you're going to pass the class with the A, B, C, or D. That shows the level of the discipline of the person. Hey, huddle up, broskies, because it's time to elevate. The secret to evolving masculinity is to define it, understand it, then apply it. The Frail series defines masculinity as the spiritual, mental, and physical embodiment of the essence of analysis and deconstruction. From this definition, I explain how masculinity is not just the hat that we wear, but it's the essence that we must exude through application. If you enjoy the Frail conversations, why not read the books that inspired them? Visit IamJustSeen.com right now to add the Frail series to your library to get a better understanding of what masculinity really is. I promise. After reading Frail, you will never look at masculinity the same again. You feel me? What things do you know that you have to do consistently? What things do you know that you have to put in to get them done? You feel me? That's what discipline is. You feel what I'm saying? Not getting it and that's why it was it was a bittersweet thing, because although I was a bad kid, I was a smart kid. My grades never fell. My grades never failed, but my behavior was something else. And it was like, how the fuck are you both? You feel me? Because most of the kids who were as bad as I was, they weren't in the classes I was in. They're like, you're in the fucking, how? You feel me? Bitch, I'm not stupid. The fuck? I don't know. Like, my behavior ain't got nothing to do with my intelligence. It never has, it never will. You dig what I'm saying? And because I guess somehow, that culture, they equate the two and make it seem like that. But I'm like, I was always disciplined like that, in order to stay motivated, stay focused. Like, I didn't have to be told to do my homework. I didn't have to be told to do certain things. I just had the natural discipline and drive to honor the structure that was already set. You dig what I'm saying? So those 2 points are very important to break in before we can segue into the next point. Because like I said, the main function of discipline, I'm not gonna say the main function of discipline. Discipline is the quintessential piece, and it's the mark of self-love. Like, you can show me somebody who's undisciplined, who cannot follow a disciplined structure. I'm gonna say follow a disciplined structure. You see how easily it's connected just to flow like that. But to be disciplined, you show me someone who has difficulty being disciplined, and I can pretty much show you one of a person who can't love themselves, who has difficulty loving themselves from the perspective of betterment through correction. You feel me? Depending on which way you view love, whether it's the desire, whether it's, admiration, infatuation, desire, and lust, that combination of love, which is feeling based, what makes you feel good in the moment. I'll say it like that instead of using these long ass definitions. Discipline's polarities through love can either be what's going to make you feel good or what's going to make you be good. Feelings are fleeting and temporary. Being is forever. You feel what I'm saying? When you are in a state of being that is eternal, it's going to keep going for the duration of your life. That's what real love is. The pseudo love is the state of feeling. Oh, I feel good. This is going to make me feel good. This is why it's easy. This is why it's a form of discipline. It's still going to be tied to love and whether or not you love yourself or not. Do you love yourself enough just to make yourself feel good, or do you love yourself enough just to make yourself be good? You feel me? And I don't mean be good in the sense of behavior like a motherfucking puppy and shit. No, fuck no. I mean in the sense of self-correction. I mean in the sense of true self-love. You feel me? Really putting in the necessary work to make yourself a better being. You feel what I'm saying? Not just feel good, but be good. Be better. Be be the highest version of yourself. That's discipline. Discipline is the very fuel that is going to push you into being what you see in your mind. You dig what I'm saying? That's what it is to be disciplined. That's what discipline is going to be. So discipline is like the thing, like when you put self-love into the picture, your discipline has to fall into that. And how you view the discipline, but how you view self-love is going to determine how the discipline is going to work out. You feel me? Like, I know people who had difficulty getting up for work. Like, their discipline is different. You feel me? They have difficulty getting up to work and getting to work on time, but let's say Friday night hits and they can make it to the club. Like, you can talk about how heavy your day was, how bad the day was, and how tired you are. But you can still somehow you can muster up some energy to get to the motherfucking club, to stay out for another 4 hours and get drunk and do all of these things. So discipline is not a thing you turn on and turn off. It's a thing you must acknowledge in which direction you're using it in. You feel me? Because like I said, discipline is either going to make you be productive or it's going to make you be lazy. But it's going to make you be. You feel what I'm saying? When people look at, okay, this person is lazy, they don't have the drive to do certain things. Now they got to just drive to channel it into other ways. Their discipline is still there. It's just untapped. It's just not used accordingly. So it's like, if this makes me feel good, then okay, that's cool. I'll be disciplined. I use my discipline enough to make myself feel good. If I don't feel good in it, and when it comes down to how you feel about it, that's when it now goes back into what we were talking about, when we go back to our childhood, our discipline being punishment. Punishment never made us feel good. So now when we tie that into that, and it's like, well, it doesn't make me feel good, I can't be disciplined, because discipline is quote unquote supposed to make me feel good. No, no, no. If you honoring it from that perspective of love, as love being how you feel, not versus how you be. You feel what I mean? Because self-love, true love, is supposed to make you better and correct you. You feel me? The other love is just supposed to make you feel good about what you are, what position you're in, what current state you're in. You feel me? Without any other changes. Discipline is going to change you into that. You know, discipline is going to be the fuel and the impetus that changes you for that. You know, so if we really want to get better, you know, as men, a lot of times our discipline has to be on point, but we got to break certain stigmas. And then we got to start realizing that we got to love ourselves. We got to love ourselves for real. Love ourselves enough not to just ordain and decorate our outer shell, but enough to create and correct the core from the inside out and build that. You dig what I'm saying? A lot of us, we get stuck in a loop where we had a prime of our lives and we stay there. We discipline ourselves to stay there. You know, I talked about this in Frail a little bit about mantras of suppression, the things that we say and we utter for ourselves. There was a moment in time when you had quote unquote a golden era and you stay there. You know, this is why if you look at adults would tell you the greatest 4 years of your life will be college. You feel me? Before I was going into college, I had a lot of the old heads that went to college say your greatest 4 years are going to be college are going to be the greatest 4 years of your life. That's bullshit to me. I don't feel like that shit like that. If life expectancy, let's say, is going to be 70 years old, I'm only expected to have the greatest years of my life is going to be a 4-year bracket. And that's going to happen between the time I'm 18 and 22. Seriously? Really? I refuse to believe that. I refused to believe that because I said, there's no way in hell I'm going to just fall into a loop for the rest of my life. And those are going to be the four greatest years of my life. You feel me? The 4 greatest years of my life, because the discipline is that's when you're going to have a moment to feel the best. You feel me? Not be the best. You dig what I'm saying? That's why it's like when I was in college, I started to understand the difference between true discipline and the discipline and structure, because I had people in I'm going to say discipline, structure, and even self-love, but I'm able to formulate the ideas now, but they were just conceptualizations that I wasn't really able to put words to, but I knew something was there. Like I would be in class with people and we would be in class and some people would be comfortable with just getting a C. They were like, at least I passed. What? And at least I passed means that I'm good enough to still get my degree and go do what I want to do. So their discipline was connected to the self-love aspect of how I can feel good. You feel what I'm saying? My shit was about the being good. Now, granted, I know it seems contradictory because I didn't study. I didn't have to because I was attentive and I learned the shit the first time the professor delivered it. I took my necessary notes, raised my hand, asked questions. But there was a one-on-one thing where people would be like, those people who were comfortable with C's never asked questions, but they always wanted to meet up after class. Yo, can we tutor? No, fuck. Like, why didn't you just ask this shit? Like, you feel me? I didn't understand when he said this. Well, why didn't you ask him what the fuck he meant? You see what I'm saying? That's discipline. That's discipline. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is not, discipline is, when you're able to correct the fuel that helps you correct yourself for the betterment of you. That's why I tell people discipline is directly tied to self-love. But if you see discipline as a punishment, you're not going to want to involve yourself with it and if you see discipline as a punishment and you also see love as a feeling as opposed to a power, you feel me? If it's not making you feel good, you're not going to want to discipline yourself. But I do know that when I was in school, those things, I wanted to be better. I wanted to be better. I remember when I was in 5th grade and we had like EOC, like it's crazy. Like I struggled with reading in the 5th grade. Like I never struggled with it before, but in 5th grade, I struggled with reading because it was the reading test. I don't know why. I have no idea. Like the math test, smash that shit. The 9 weeks test that we used to have to take, smash that shit. The reading test, I would get bored because they had me reading bullshit. Like at the time, in the 5th grade, I only read things that entertained me. I only read things that were good for me. I had to get older. My mom had to break this down to me. Like, you got to read things for entertainment, inspiration, and information every day. At the time, I was only reading for entertainment. You feel me? So the shit that they had me reading was stupid. And I couldn't focus. I didn't want to pay attention. Not only that, a lot of the stuff that they have you reading is culturally based. So it was never in the culture that I was in. I don't know what the fuck is going on with this shit. I don't give a fuck about it. It has no tie to me. You feel what I'm saying? So I was like, I think I had like 2 back-to-back 9-week sessions where it's just like, I did not do good at all. I was like, what in the fuck? So, I'm looking at my math grades. I'm like, this is easy because math is tangible. It is what it is. But it's like my reading grade it was kicking my ass, but I was still performing well in the course. I was still in the class. I was still doing everything I was supposed to do. But I was like, what is missing? In the 5th grade, I was like, I just don't like reading this shit. So I started reading more types of shit I didn't like. I just got comfortable reading shit that I didn't like. You feel me? Case in point, that's one of the reasons why when I was in undergrad, I had a homie say, yo, how do you just know random shit? Because I read a lot of shit that I don't like. Now it's like, it's no level to it. You feel me? Now it's just either entertainment, information, and inspiration, but it's not like I like this or I don't like this, so I'll stay away from it. Now I'm just going to read it. You feel me? That was something that was the discipline I had to have in the 5th grade in order to pass. So that final EOG test that we had, I maxed it out because I broke the code for myself. I was like, oh, so I just got to read more shit that I don't like. Okay, cool. And then it got me comfortable and I was able to pay attention to it because I know once I get to where it's like, I'm no longer engaged, I'm just staring at the words and going over. I'm sight reading at that point. I'm not trying to comprehend. And I started to learn that about myself. And that's where the discipline came in, because the discipline, it fueled for me to be better as opposed to just feeling good. Because I didn't feel good after those first 2 tests, those first 2 9-week tests. I said, ain't no way in hell I'm going to make it out of the 5th grade. I am not failing this shit. You feel me? Because their thing was like, if you don't pass, like they retain you or some shit. Like no matter what your grades are, if you fail the EOG or some shit. And I was nervous about failing it. I said, yo, this ain't, and my teacher used to always ask me, I never forget it. She was a black teacher named Miss Hargett. She was the final 5th grade teacher I had, but she was there. She was like, I don't get what's happening. I said, I don't either. I said, this shit, I ain't say shit, but like, yo, this is so boring to me. I don't like what they're telling me to read, and it was like, well, you read a lot. Like I had crossed the 100-point club in the AR for the accelerated reader program and shit. They did a little ceremony, walk around, get B's and shit. I was a reader, but I realized I only read shit that I liked. You feel me? Those tests are about shit that you don't like to see if you can really pay attention. You're not teaching kids that shit early. You feel me? To teach them to start reading shit that they don't like, get familiar with reading shit that they don't like. You feel what I'm saying? Only for the reward. So therefore, like our discipline is based off consequence and reward. So if the consequence isn't good and I'm used to discipline being a punishment, it's just not making me feel good. So fuck it. I'm not going to discipline myself to be better at it. You feel what I'm saying? So those are levels of discipline that we have to focus on. We need to understand the full capacity and the full dynamic of self-love. True self-love. You feel what I'm saying? Because your discipline is going to be your focus and your drive. It's going to be what drives you. You feel what I'm saying? It's going to be what drives you. It's what fuels the vehicle that's pushing you. You feel me? But now it has to go into tying to the layers. You feel what I'm saying? So break that barrier of, okay, self-love is, love is like, and then as men too, as my brothers, we got to get over the stigma that love is gay. You feel me? Like feeling and emotions, like no, because then we can never get to the true understanding of love for real. Love is about correction and betterment. And it's not always going to be good peaches and cream and roses just to get you some pussy. No, love is about correction, continued correction. When you truly love yourself, you're willing to do what's necessary to make yourself better. You feel what I'm saying? Working out is no longer a problem. No, working out is no longer a task. You feel me? It is a requirement. You dig what I'm saying? When you're disciplined, you understand I'm not working out because, the shell of things, like this is why I noticed that a lot of people, they work out, during the summertime. They start working out when it's about to warm up just so they can have the summer body. And then after summer's over, they showing it off. They go back to the bullshit that was it. They're not disciplined. You feel me? Or if they are disciplined, their discipline is to how they can feel, how something's going to make them feel, not versus something, how it's going to make them beat. You feel what I'm saying? When you're disciplined for that aspect of self-betterment, it's like, yo, I can make my body do this. Yo, for real, I can do this. Like, it's just the accomplishments of the goals. It's the task to complete it. And that discipline fuels you there. You know what I'm saying? So as my brothers, like, we need to learn to be disciplined, you know? And discipline is not necessarily, and also another point, discipline is not restraint. You feel what I'm saying? I'll use this as an example, you know, and I'll wrap it up and bring it all full circle. When I started practicing celibacy now, let me say this too real quick before y'all try to hit me with the Umar shit. I am selectively celibate. Okay? I am selectively celibate. You feel what I'm saying? It's not that I'm just going in some monk shit and I'm just not. No, I'm selectively celibate. If the time aligns and things are, I will plug something. Okay? So if you happen to see me and it just pop, like, I don't want that. It's like, because I seen what happened to him. Because I very well believe that he could have been selectively celibate. And it's like, at the end of the day, like, who the fuck cares? Like, oh, he's celibate. Now he's fraud because he said he was celibate and he's trying to fuck a stripper. Hey, well, she's a woke stripper. So, I mean, she stay woke. She's still a woman, though. I didn't get that. But I'm giving that disclaimer now because, yeah, if you see it, you know, you can't say shit. Like, you feel me? And I don't want it to seem like I'm contradicting myself because I'm not. I am selectively celibate. But this is how celibacy, the discipline that I had within myself was how I was able to be celibate and practice celibacy, you know, because when I talk to people, they're like, oh my gosh, it's just so hard. Like, what do you do when you get this? Do you not get that? Do you not get horny? Do you not feel, I get the same shit you get. But see, that's the difference between the discipline levels that we have. See, your discipline, if it's hard for you to control it, it's because your discipline is based on feeling and you have sex for the feeling. You dig what I'm saying? You know, I used to have sex for the feeling. When I first became celibate, yes, it was harder than a motherfucker, but then I understood what I was being celibate for. I understood it was for the betterment of myself. You dig what I'm saying? I understood that I had to get certain energies out. So the time in which I, you know, started my discipline behind it was greater than just refraining from sex. People will be thinking when I say I practice celibacy, I'm just refraining from sex. No, if I want sex, I can go get it right now. You feel me? This ain't no, I'm not trying to toot my horn or anything like that. But if I want it, I can go get it. You feel me? Like, if I wanted it, I can go get it. It's not something that I'm refraining from. However, the reason why it's easy for me not to just go out and do it anymore is because of the point that I reached in the self-betterment for me, my discipline to be better, because I realized how sex was tied to creative energy. I realized how sex was tied to the energy of another person. I learned so many different things about it. It became the discipline to better myself out of that, to take like, I learned that in having sex with a depressive, suicidal woman who was denying that she was depressive, she was dealing with depression, and she was suicidal, and she had all these things, those things latched on to me. And I became those things too. Not only was I battling with my own depression, now I'm taking on the depression levels of somebody else. And now I realized, I just can't be out here fucking anymore. Because I was fucking too much. And shit was just getting out of whack. In addition to that, I learned that sex is creative energy. When I learned that aspect, it was like, the discipline to refrain from sex, it's not refraining from sex, because sex doesn't come to my mind because I'm taking my creative energy elsewhere. You feel me? I'm writing books. I'm, doing podcast episodes, working out. I'm doing certain things that are creative. What can I do with this creation? I know a lot of people be like, yo, I stay horny. No, you stay creative and you just don't know what to do with it. Because you don't have the discipline to do better with that creative energy. And that's fine. That's cool if that's what you do. But now you have to be able to understand this fully a lot better and be more aware of it, because the discipline is going to be what can break that reality within you. And I understand why I had to strengthen that discipline in myself. Because with this whole Me Too movement and shit, I'm so glad. Like, considering the path that I'm living and the things that I'm gonna be doing in life, I'm overcoming imposter syndrome. So I know how great I'm gonna be, and I know where it's gonna put me. You feel me? I don't deny that a little bit, but I understand now why I had to go through certain things, why I had to be disciplined enough to say, you know what, you need to learn how to control your sexual urges and do this shit, because it's easy to get slipped up in the wrong situation in this world, especially when they're trying to take you out. You feel me? When you reach a certain position and you start to do certain things, they try to take you out. Am I saying that they're going to? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But I anticipate that, considering what I know my mission is. You feel me? I don't like, I know what I'm here for. I know what I'm here to do, and I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And I know what they do to people like me who are in this position to do so. So one of the reasons why I had to learn, I have to be disciplined, is that I have to understand the betterment of that disciplinary aspect. You feel me? And I have to break the mentality of disciplinary actions being bad things. And I had to structure myself. Because for that feel-good moment, you feel what I'm saying? That feel-good moment can cost me the rest of my life if I ain't careful. That's not discipline, but that's discipline from the negative polarity. You're still gonna, have a certain energy to do certain things. You have to drive and a focus to do it. But now you're focused off of the feeling of love. You feel me? Not the being of love. Not love is the power. So like I said, discipline ties into self-love, self-care, and these things of that nature, But as men, we now need to elevate the perspective of discipline. So when we elevate our energy and our expression of discipline, it's also going to elevate the way we love ourselves. You can't just love yourself in the dynamic of what you feel. It's what you be. You feel me? It's how well you can make yourself be, how much you can make yourself be better, not just feel good in the moment, because that's when things that's when you lose control. Discipline keeps you in control. I know, and I get it. I hear all the conversations. I even say it myself, too. You can't control what you can't control. You feel me? And that's it. You can't control what you can't control, but you can control what you can. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I'm not one of those people who, as much as I practice spirituality, I understand that spirituality has a lot of manifestations that I got to handle myself. Only thing I leave up to, chance and reality and for the universe to embody is the shit that I can't control. The shit that I know I can't control, which are unknown unknowns. You feel me? The unknown unknowns, I don't know those because I don't know what they are. But the known knowns, the known unknowns, and the unknown knowns, I have a way of finding those out and figuring those out. That's my part. That's what I got to discipline myself into doing. And then I leave the rest up, and it's the discipline and the drive that I have that pushes me to that. You dig what I'm saying? When it was time for me to write So Frail, I said, I want to sell this amount of books. When I first released it, I said, I'm going to sell this amount of books by this time frame. Didn't happen. You know why it didn't happen? Because I didn't have the discipline. I didn't put the discipline in it to do the necessary things to make that a reality. I was wishfully thinking that just because I know people who like it, that they're going to spread the word to this person, they're going to spread the word to that person, it's going to eventually reach this amount of people in this amount of time. It was ridiculous. It didn't make sense because I didn't put in any of the effort to make that happen. You feel me? I didn't have the discipline to do that because having the book out and having people get it, so it started to feel good, but it wasn't that disciplinary aspect to cross that line and say, you know what? If you want this, now you have to learn how to market this book. Now you have to learn how to advertise this book. You have to learn how to sell it. It's not going to sell itself. You feel me? It's not going to sell itself. You have to sell it. You have to engage. You have to get people to say, hey, I need a review. You have to do all these things. This was shit that I wasn't oblivious to. I didn't put the discipline into that. You feel me? I didn't put the discipline into that for the betterment of that. I've done it now, so much so that it kind of trickled down into other things, kind of know how to advertise and market well now. Like, you feel me? And it helps with all of the other things that I know that I have to do. But it's the disciplinary part that says, yo, I want this to work. How do I correct myself enough to make this a reality? Otherwise, I'm just going to keep feeling good. You feel what I'm saying? It sounds good to be able to go to, it sounds good to feel good about, it felt good to have the book out. But it's like at some point it plateaued off and it was just like, oh, I'm not even scratching the surface of trying to hit that many sales yet. Damn, what the fuck am I doing wrong? You feel me? I wasn't disciplining myself, and that's one of the things that a lot of us have to deal with. When we're disciplining ourselves, we have to always ask ourselves, one, are we seeing this as punishment? 2, are we trying to see discipline, equate discipline to structure? And 3, are we doing it from self-love? And 4, if we are doing it from self-love, which love are we doing it from? The love where we're just trying to feel good, or the love where we're trying to be good and be better within ourselves? Because with love comes correction, and love is the betterment of self through correction. So your discipline has to be fueled through one of those dynamics. So which dynamic are you fueling your self-love through? Is it just the self-love of feeling good? And because if it's nothing that can make you, because being better is not always going to feel good. It's not always going to feel good. But you have to be able to be disciplined enough to fight through the part that doesn't feel good. You feel me? If we get so wrapped up in only dealing with things that make us feel good, we're not disciplined. We're not disciplined. You feel what I'm saying? And then you're going to feel the pain. You feel me? You're going to feel the pain. It's still going to come to you. So it's like when you're disciplining yourself, focus on those points. You feel me? My brother's like, don't just look at discipline as, don't look at discipline as a negative thing anymore. Don't look at it as punishment if you do. Don't look at it as learn to look at it for what it is. And it's the fuel and the drive that pushes you. It's the fuel and the drive that propels the power of love. And then understand that self-love is the betterment of self through correction. Not just the admiration, infatuation, desire, and lust amalgamation that we have been conditioned to operate from. I'm going to only be disciplined enough if something gives me some kind of reward or if it makes me feel good. No, we need to say, I'm going to be disciplined enough because this shit is going to make me better. Oh yeah, and don't forget to visit IamJustSeen.com. There you can get all things Just Seen. You want to add the So Frail series to your library? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to learn how to master the market for serious trading and investing? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to get your hands on some exclusive merch like tees, hoodies, coffee mugs, hats, bags? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Are you thinking about transitioning into the plant-based lifestyle? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You ever want to just chat with Seen about anything from simple advice to mentorship? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Anything and everything that is me, you can find at IamJustSeen.com. So just take a quick peek into my world and see why being just seen is nothing less but always more. Because you never really know what you need until you see it. You will never see it unless you visit IamJustSeen.com. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and try to wrap it up there. Yeah, man, discipline. We need to be disciplined. And I wanted to have the discipline conversation like the way that I did, because I know a lot of times when it comes to us, like, we be, I ain't gonna say we be hard on each other. We be hard on ourselves and shit, but we be coming at each other on some stupid shit sometimes, We never really explain the shit that we need to explain. It's like we get so, especially when it comes to discipline, like, we be like, this person ain't disciplined. This person, like, yo, you got to understand what discipline is. You feel me? I know disciplined people who lack structure. I know structured people who lack discipline. You feel what I'm saying? I know people who've been punished all of their lives, and that's how they equate discipline. So therefore, they don't, if it's not going to bring punishment to them, they're not going to do anything to make the change. I know people who are in both different dynamics, or all the different dynamics and shit. And we as a whole need to adjust how we perceive discipline, so that way we can teach it and we can actually be more disciplined. Like, discipline is not a bad thing. You feel me? It's not a bad thing, but it's a essence that it's going to be the fuel that makes you better. It's going to propel you. Love is the power. It's the vehicle. Love is the power and the vehicle for betterment and correction, for betterment through correction. And discipline is how you correct yourself. It's simple. Discipline is the way in which you correct yourself. If I don't know something, I learn it. You dig what I'm saying? That's discipline. I don't want it to seem like it has to be some kind of, punishing thing. You know what I mean? If you want abs, do sit-ups. You feel what I'm saying? Until you see the desired result. That's the discipline of it all. You feel me? But we want to make it seem like you have to create this robotic realm for yourself. Nah, like you can receive the results that you get and be cool. You know what I'm saying? And be cool and learn how to continually tap into that. You know? And that's what I noticed that like when I talk to my brothers and shit and they be like, yo, this person lacks discipline. It's like, nah, it's not that they lack discipline. They misunderstand what discipline really is. You know? They may lack structure. That may be cool. And they may lack discipline in the sense that they don't want to punish themselves. They feel like if I get disciplined, I'm going to be punishing myself. You feel me? Like I remember one time, me and my oldest nephew, he was a lot younger. He did something bad, but I was watching him and, you know, I said, shit, you done fucked up. And it wasn't my response to whoop him. It wasn't my response to punish him. I said, hey man, let's do some push-ups. I was like, cause what he did was fucked up, but I know it was fucked up off of my part. I didn't give the clear directions and I wasn't about to punish him for my fuck up. So, but I had to let him know that he still made a mistake because it was still laid out clear enough to get done. But you feel me? It was like, damn, I kind of did. All right, my bad. So I told him, I said, look, I said, you owe me 25 push-ups for messing up. And I said, I owe you 25 push-ups for doing it wrong. And he was like, okay. So, it turned into a moment where it wasn't me being aggressive towards him. He didn't see it as punishment. Like we literally laughed because I said, let's see who get the 25 done first. You feel what I'm saying? I put that positive energy into it. And then it's like, I cooked him and I was like, yeah, see, he was like, man, I can't do 25. I said, yes, you can. Come on. So I said, matter of fact, I'll keep going. I actually did more than him so we can, keep in that vein of energy. And then after that, I sat him down and I talked to him. I was like, yo, bro, that was my bad. Yo, I didn't tell you this part. He said, see, Uncle Ray, I told you didn't tell. I was like, I know. But at the same time, then I told him his part. But that punishment that he was getting, I had to let him, that I had to separate it from discipline. You feel me? I wasn't disciplining him because that would have put a negative energy to it. And even if it was that negative energy, I made it fun because I said, dang, I got to do it too. You feel me? I got to do it too. Like, man, that's fucked up. So, all of that was to say that, we have to learn to break the stigma of discipline being punishment, discipline being something that's equated to consequence and action. It's not. It's the driving force that allows us to correct ourselves when we're wrong. You feel what I'm saying? Had I have not have been disciplined within me, I would have just told him to do the push-ups and just looked at him. Nah, damn, I fucked up too. I gave you the wrong instruction, bro. Damn. That's a level of discipline too. Like the ability to correct, the ability to be able to correct yourself. If you need to correct yourself, when you need to correct yourself, So from this point forward, I just, I want us to be able to look at discipline like that, as the impetus for my self-love. But my self-love is the ability for me to correct myself. You feel me? Love is the betterment through correction. Love is betterment through correction. So discipline is how I'm going to correct myself and make myself better. You feel me? Internally. Like, you feel me? What things I have to do that shit. Like, I'm not just saying, enhance a physical aspect of yourself. Nah, but make yourself better at a certain task. If I know that, for example, like with my books, if I knew that I wanted to sell these books to people, I needed to understand how to sell them to people. That's discipline, to learn that skill and that resource. You feel me? That's an ongoing process, and I had to learn the full dynamic of it. But that was one of the things. You know what I mean? If I want to eat better, I just can't change I have to know how food works. That's discipline, to learn that aspect, to say, okay, cool. I'm going to learn this within myself. And then I'm going to learn how this functions within my body, why I need this. People don't understand that they like the disciplined person not because of the structure that they follow through, but because how they continually better themselves. You feel me? How they continually better themselves. Like your discipline can get you to a point where you don't have to quote unquote be disciplined anymore. But I have to understand that through it all, the discipline that you exude, the discipline that you exhibit is always going to be a function and a system of how do I fuel my love through this? How do I fuel my self-love, which is me bettering myself? And I'm going to be disciplined towards that. If I know that I want this particular task, I have to learn how to do this skill, or I have to learn how to do this particular thing that is going to make me better at this. When my brother, he's a star athlete. Well, he was. You feel me? He got kids now. He old. I ain't gonna say he old because he's not even 40 yet. But when we all in our 30s. Shit. Anyway, with him, he loved basketball. You feel me? When I say he was a beast, he was a beast. Like when he wanted to learn how to dunk, it was just like he didn't just like I noticed that he would always walk around with ankle weights. Like he would always walk around with ankle weights and jump over shit. I'm like, I remember him, he cleared a whole fence one time. Like I just jumped it. And I was like, how did you do that shit? He said, I practice on my legs every day. His discipline was, I wanted to jump. I wanted to dunk. You feel me? Now, mind you, I think he was doing this. When I first started seeing him wear ankle weights, he had to be like 13. Yeah. He had to be like 13. We was in California then. Yeah, he had to be like 13 and shit. But then by the time he was 16, he was dunking. Like, you feel what I'm saying? He was dunking. Like, he used to always say, like, when I wanted to work on my jump shot, he said, I would shoot 300 jumpers. He said, I was shooting 300 jumpers a day. Every day. He said, I would shoot 300 jump shots. He said, and that was discipline. Now, there would be like, the structure part to it was, okay, do this every day. Like, I think that's kind of what fucks us up a lot of times with our discipline. The structure and not being able to do it, because I'm using my brother as that example for the discipline side. He was shooting 300 jumpers and his shot was nice. It was nice. Like the motherfucker, he had a shot, you feel me? But life happened and, he fucked up his knee twice and, went down the route that he went. And, he didn't do the shit he was supposed to do. But that's beside the fact. I ain't gonna say he didn't do the shit he was supposed to do. He couldn't. Because it's like, damn, you kind of lose that aspect and that ability to drive. You fuck your knee up twice, the same knee. You feel me? And it wasn't on like he fucked it up playing the game. He broke it riding a motorcycle one time and then it was something else. But he fucked his knee up twice, and his discipline allowed him to rehab it back both times and got better each time. But, that's the discipline. He's like, I'm going to better myself. He didn't just quit. He didn't just give up and say, my knee's fucked up forever. Nah, he got better. He got faster. He got stronger. He continued to stay true to himself. On the other side of that, where discipline becomes a bad thing for you and you don't like it anymore, is I was watching hurricane season. I was watching hurricane season and this dude was talking about, when they did a breakdown part and he was like, yo, who you playing for? He was like, I'm playing for my brother because his brother died and his dad forced him to feel like his brother was like all state, all American, all of that shit or whatever the case may be, the top recruits and shit, but he died. And so his dad said he had to fill that spot. So he was like, man, y'all don't know what it's like, waking up 5 a.m. to run 2-3 miles, in the cold, shooting jumpers till your fingers bleed. That's not discipline. That's not discipline. You feel what I'm saying? And people think shit like that is discipline. No, that's torture. You're torturing your body or you're torturing yourself under the guise that the sacrifice is going to pay off. No, discipline is betterment. Not only is it betterment, it's figuring out how to be better without hurting myself. Just imagine what you got to put your mind through psychologically to get better at something and it's causing you pain. You feel me? We got to stop doing that shit. Like, we got to really focus on changing the perception of what discipline is and how to truly discipline ourselves. Because we can create a better generation of boys who understand what discipline is. But again, understanding discipline is also going to restructure our understanding of self-love, which is now going to restructure our true definition of what love is, because discipline has to tie into all of that, And when we're truly disciplined within ourselves as men, we open up the world for different things because now we become better. Now we become better, and that's what the discipline is. Discipline kind of goes hand in hand with patience, because discipline is like, okay, I'm going to put in the work to achieve the desired goal of bettering myself. Why? Because I love me. I love me enough to know that this is a problem. I have to fix it. So I'm going to be disciplined enough to put in the work to fix this shit. You feel what I'm saying? That trickles down. Once you're able to do that for yourself, that trickles into doing things outside of that. You feel me? For the things that you want to put love into, but you now have to put love into those things of correction. You feel me? So let's look at it if we going from our relationships perspective. If our relationships, we know, okay, I'm loving this person. Are you disciplined enough to correct that person? You feel what I'm saying? If they're off their shit, if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, can you correct them? Or do you just pacify them enough to make them feel good about their shortcomings? You feel me? I think one of the next podcast episodes I'm going to do is the difference between red flags and flaws. But, a lot of people, like, is that really correcting? Is that really loving that person if you're unwilling to correct them, or if you're just willing to let them sit in that space and just embrace that the shit that you see is causing them detriment? You feel me? That's not love. That's not love. The same aspect of that, that's not love to just sit in the shit that is, detrimental to you. Oh, this is just the way I am. And it's fucking up your connection with people. You can't even speak to people. You can't even make solid connections and advance yourself in life because you have a fucked up situation within you that you're not disciplined enough to correct. Fix that shit. Fix that shit. That's not that whole, I'm just that's just the way that I am. No, get over that shit. Be disciplined enough to make that not who you are anymore. Change your flaws to qualities. You know what I'm saying? My bad, I had to write that shit down because that's definitely going to be one of my next episodes. Definitely going to be one of my next episodes. What did I say? Red flags and motherfucking, what the hell I just say? Red flags and something. Fuck it, I'll listen back to this shit. But yeah. Red flags and flaws, that's what it was. Yeah. So that's real. Like, discipline is gonna be able to say, okay, look, this is something that I need to change. I need to change these flaws to qualities. I need to not necessarily, because if I don't change my flaws to qualities, they stay red flags. Damn, I'm gonna stop talking because this episode about to be cold when I drop this motherfucker. I don't need to add too much more of that, but this is what this one is bringing me to. But yeah, discipline yourselves, my brothers, man. We really got to be more disciplined. From the discipline, we can determine how we need to structure ourselves, whether we need to structure it. I know so many people be like, yo, how do when I write my books, a lot of people, I've had people who are trying to become authors and everything. They're like, yo, so how should I write my schedule? I said, I write when I feel like writing. What do you mean? I said, well, I write when I feel like writing. When the book is done, it's done. Wait, so you don't write to a schedule? Mm-mm. Well, how did you finish the book? But you said you finished. I did. I finished the first 3 books. Well, the only 3 books that I published. I wrote them all in a month and a half at most. And people were like, well, how did you do that? Well, this is when I felt like writing it. Like, I didn't try to force myself to write and shit like that. Now, I have discipline too. I have discipline and I have self-love through correction. Now, self-love dish through how I feel good. So I don't write when I feel. I mean, I write when I feel like writing, but it's like I don't have to be in a certain emotional space to write. And I don't get writer's block because of that, because I don't structure myself and say, okay, I'm going to lock down 2 to 3 hours to write. Because I don't feel like writing then. But when I do write, I write until I'm done. So it could be those moments like, and that's why like within that first book, the first couple of books, it was like when writing, I would, sometimes I'll write for 4 hours straight. Because it's just there. It's just like, damn, let me get it. And some days it just be like, I write 15 minutes, 30 minutes. You feel me? But my discipline was to always write. You feel me? My discipline was to always write. And I was able to stay in that space of correction. You feel what I'm saying? Because that's the self-love. Sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like doing it. Yeah. To be honest with you, y'all probably, I know a couple people are very, very upset with me because Frail 3 was supposed to be out September 11th. I was supposed to drop it September 11th. It's not done yet. It's not done yet. I don't feel like writing. I just don't feel it. So I'm not gonna force it. I will never. If I don't feel it, I don't force it. You feel me? That's my own level of discipline. It's still coming. The book is still gonna come. I just don't feel it right now. When I get in that space again to feel it, I feel it and I write. I can't force this shit. I can't force it. You feel what I'm saying? So that's the disciplinary aspect to it, man. I want us to change the perception of discipline, and now let's reinvigorate ourselves and really discipline ourselves to, okay, bam, I'm gonna discipline myself through correction, through self-love, and really start to love myself because I'm gonna correct myself. Now, this is not to say be hard on yourself. Some things don't need to be changed. It's just things motherfuckers don't like about you. That may necessarily not be a flaw to you. You feel me? That may necessarily not be a flaw. It could be a character trait. And you just see it wrong because you let another motherfucker dictate how you're supposed to see it. But again, I'm going to say that for the next time we meet when we're talking about red flags and flaws, because that one's going to be some shit. But yeah, with that being said, be sure to follow me on Instagram at _just_scene_. Be sure to check me out at my website, IamJustScene.com, to get all things Just Scene, books, courses, merch, you name it. And you can also follow the social media outlets through the links. Be sure to kiss your babies and make sure they're eating their vegetables. And teach discipline as a function of self-love and correction and not as a sense of punishment, because that's going to create undisciplined adults who are unable to really discipline themselves and be disciplined through the sense of correction. You feel me? They're going to avoid discipline because they're connected to punishment and pain. You feel what I'm saying? So it's going to cause them to go through life kind of fucked up and not truly learn to do the things that they're supposed to do. So discipline is a matter of having the fuel to correct yourself. You feel me? That's what it means to be disciplined. So start to teach that to your babies. Start to teach them how to have the fuel to correct themselves and correct their behavior. You feel me? Without punishing them and without incentivizing them. Let them just, okay, this is just what you do because this is what you do for you to be the better you. You feel what I'm saying? And let that be what fuels them to discipline. And then they just they'll naturally exhibit it. You feel what I'm saying? They'll naturally exhibit it. I'm learning that that's what my mom was doing all of my childhood life. It just hit me. Like when I used to ask her shit, like how do you spell a word, she used to tell me to go look at it in a dictionary. She taught me how to do this shit. She taught me how to discipline myself, how to correct and better myself. Damn, mama motherfucking sing. Anywho, be sure to kiss your babies, make sure they eat their vegetables, and I will see y'all all on the next one. Peace, love, knowledge, and freedom. I'm out.